Welcome to Spring with the Seasons Leadership Podcast, where we are awakening to new energy, creativity, and the opportunity to elevate our thinking. Throughout the season, we will continue to bring you actionable advice to inspire you to explore new possibilities, clarify your vision, and start your new plan to improve your leadership and life today. Thank you for joining me, Susan Ireland, and my co-host, Debbie Collard. As certified leadership coaches and co-founders of Seasons Leadership, we share a vision to make excellent leadership the worldwide standard, which drives us to partner with teams, individuals, and organizations to increase and accelerate leadership excellence, a specific skill that helps leaders successfully achieve high levels of performance. Learn more at seasonsleadership.com. You've experienced plenty examples of mediocre or even bad leadership. Join us in making positive leadership the norm rather than the exception. By listening and engaging in the discussions featured on this podcast, you help us bring leadership excellence to the world. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Susan. And joining us today is Jaime Diglio. Jaime's a highly accomplished performance coach and the founder of inFirst Coaching. With over 20 years of experience in sales leadership roles at top-tier companies like Gartner, Microsoft, and Slalom, Jaime's developed a set of proven coaching techniques that have become a secret weapon for her client success. She holds a master's degree in industrial organizational psychology, which has further enhanced her ability to train leaders and teams on how to win at work and in life.
Jaime's expertise lies in helping individuals and teams identify and remove the invisible barriers that are holding them back, leading to immediate increases in performance. Her innovative Win Room programs are specifically designed to support high-growth organizations with future of work strategies that drive sales, employee engagement, connection, and retention. Jaime's recent TEDx talk titled "From War Room to Win Room, Change Your Room, Change Your Life" has been widely praised for its inspiring and transformational message. Her ability to instill a sense of confidence and motivation in her clients has made her one of the most sought-after coaches around. Welcome, Jaime.
Thank you both. I'm so happy to be here.
So Jaime, we just mentioned when we were introducing you about your TEDx talk on going from the war room to the win room. And it was fascinating. I listened to it 2 times already, and I've got something out of it both times. But one of the things we focus on at Seasons Leadership is leadership excellence. We're very passionate about that. So can you tell us a little bit more about your going from the war room to the win room, what that's all about, especially for people who haven't listened to your talk? And if you could weave into there, how does that help leaders go from wherever they are in their leadership journey to excellence?
Yes. Well, I think I don't want to give the whole talk away because I would love for people to listen and have their own thoughts about it. But we all get into leadership roles to make a difference, right? We have this vision of how we're going to be as a leader. And then it's like life punches you in the face. what happens? But I don't know. I just said that the wrong way, but you know what I'm talking about. But then like reality hits and, it gets really, really hard. Mm-hmm. So the talk really is talks really about my journey, which I've like narrowed into a 15-minute talk, but my journey of ending up as a leader in the war room. And war stands for working against results. So all of the things that I was doing as a leader, where I was actually doing the reverse of what I was trying to do. So I was doubting myself. I wasn't clear on direction. I was overthinking, and I was stuck there. And that was a moment of burnout for me as a leader. And so in the talk, I share my story, but also about how to get to that other space where we are focused on what we want. And so the win room is everybody wants to win, right? but what is winning really? And the win room stands for what I need. And so thinking more clearly as a leader about what I need, what my goals are, having clarity around that, what my values are, and staying focused there. And so it's really about how to expand that and not get caught up in everything else that is so easy to get caught up in, today as a leader, because we, just everything that's happening.
Yeah, Jamie, when you're talking about this, and I really enjoyed your TED Talk too, because I see myself, I see so many people in that same situation. But what you did there, in a 15-minute talk, and just this is, you described something that's very countercultural, right? That's hard to do, to go from the war room to the win room in your head when everybody around you is doing something different. How did you do it?
Well, my background, as you said in my intro, I have a background in organizational psychology. So I went and I got a master's in organizational psychology, and then had a career in sales and sales leadership. It's a unique path, right? I didn't go into human resources. I didn't go into that traditional path. But why I did get the degree was actually after 9/11, I lost my job. It was my first job out of school, and I was living in New York. And it was a moment for me of just this real aha moment of, oh my gosh, like, what am I going to do? But then also feeling really grateful for being alive, right? Like, it was that time. And so what I ended up doing is, there were no jobs back then. And why I'm sharing this, because it's a little bit of background and where this comes from. I started bartending and waitressing to pay my bills, because I wasn't making any money.
Yeah.
And I became really, really fascinated with talking with customers, talking with people all day long about, when you're behind the bar, you hear everybody's stories. And I became really fascinated about what makes someone, when something bad happens, right? When we have a hiccup, we have a challenging moment in our life, what makes some people fall back on their heels and woe is me, and what makes other people get back up and focus forward? I became really, really obsessed with this. And then also talking with customers about how to reframe and rethink what was going on with them. And so with that's when I decided to go back and get my master's in organizational psychology, because I heard that there was this way to understand how to move and motivate people in organizations. And I was like, that is what I want to learn more about. Yeah. So moving into a career in sales is like, what is sales? Sales is motivating and moving people forward when they're stuck. That's all it is. Right?
Right.
And so this just became a habit for me with others, to do this with others, with customers, with my teams. And for me, though, in my leadership journey, I got to a point with 2 young kids and managing a large team and just all the responsibilities that I was not paying attention to myself. Mm-hmm. So I took my own advice and hit that burnout mode. And I said, okay, well, what do I need to do to get myself in the direction where I want to go, get myself back on track? And I just started to read books. Brene Brown was someone who I was introduced to, and it's like crazy to think I didn't know who she was back then. This is like 2015. Yeah. So I started really reading books and learning a lot more about the psychology of people, neuroscience, just understanding what motivates people. And so using those tactics for myself. And, as a female, I would say that, and I say this a lot, is that we are not very good at promoting ourselves. Mm-hmm. We'll do really amazing things. Like, I built a $40 million business from the ground up, and I did like all these ridiculously amazing things in my career, and I was very successful, but I didn't know how to own it. I didn't know how to speak it. I didn't know how to articulate who I was, what I cared about, all these things. And so through this whole process, I learned how to do that. And then with coaching people, teaching them how to do that. So, the process, for me is almost like I've created my programs because it was something I needed.
Right.
Everything I teach to others is because of what I needed as a leader that I didn't have, which is what caused me to burn out.
Right. That it's very inspiring, because I think it's this idea that it can happen to any of us. You had the education, and and it's still, you got there, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Because it's different. I mean, when it's you, that's the whole point. It's like, you can't see the picture when you're in the frame. You're in it. And this is why it's so important to have, what I call your win team, but people around you. Everyone needs a coach.
Yeah.
Right. Everybody needs someone to be, a coach in their corner, an advocate for them. Somewhere along the line, we were taught that we kind of need to, suffer in silence and don't let anybody know. And even like after I hit my burnout, I was so afraid. I didn't really tell anybody what was really going on, because I looked at that as, I would be a liability. And luckily, in most places, things have really progressed in the last, I would say, and that was only 7 years ago. But yeah, I mean, it happens to anybody. It's not, if we're human, right?
That's
We're
right.
human, and
Absolutely.
it's even more rampant today.
Well, it's the norm that you said it yourself, and it's the stiff upper lip, the fake it till you make it, like all the little sayings that we hear that people are always spouting to us. And even when you would go into leadership courses for quite a while, it was the never let them see you sweat. You've got to be the example of the change. And hello, that is a recipe for burnout, right? Because if you're never asking anybody for help, and you're never depending on anybody else, even if it's just to hold the mirror up and go, look, are you practicing what you're preaching out there? Then it's inevitable almost, right? To hit that burnout state.
You got it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it takes a lot of courage. I think it takes more courage to actually admit that you need help than to hide the fact that, you're feeling tired or stressed out or burned out. So that's why I say it was like totally countercultural for you to do that.
So yeah, and so what I started doing as a way to continue to practice this was that I started my first win rooms when I was in my corporate role, like 7 years ago. And I would start it because a big part of it was because I was in an environment where I was not feeling like I could be myself. I was feeling like I had to, I'm a pretty vocal person. I say what I think and use my judgment. And I was successful, but there was part of that. And I see this a lot. I actually see this a lot with women, ambitious women, is we're kind of are like told to like, shh, just tone it down a bit, right? Like, can you just stay within these parameters?
Yeah. Yeah.
And for me, that was, so for me, that the burnout stage was a reflection of like, I had lost who I was. I literally had lost, like, I didn't have anything else to give. I didn't know what I cared about. I didn't know what I liked. I know you're looking at me now, you're like, wait, how is that possible? That I was holding everything together for my team. But what I realized was that I knew that if I have everybody just reading a script, so if I just follow the playbook and have everybody just follow the playbook, you're basically like removing all of the greatness from all these people. Everything that makes them unique and makes them good at what they do is we want to bring forward their uniqueness in how they communicate with each other as a team, authentically, and with clients. So as a leader, my first win rooms were about bringing my teams together and talking about, hey, like, what are the things you're interested in? What do you care about? pick an article that you found interesting this week. Let's talk about it. And so people, whatever you're interested in will make you interesting to others. But if you've got nothing to give, it's like you're just the same old person, showing up. So how do you deepen the connection with yourself to then connect better with your colleagues and with your clients? So these win room sessions, it was just like really, creating a deeper meaning about who are the unique individuals in the room. And that was always a thing for me, building teams over and over again that were successful was kind of like my thing. And I always looked for people that were different as well, like that had brought different things to the table. And so what you see in a lot of organizations is they, like I said, try to make everybody the same. And I was like, nope, we're going to make everybody like this just dynamic group of powerful. And we would be successful because we were being ourselves. We were bringing out the best versions of ourselves. And that, again, that was where it was born. It was born out of my need for me to bring out the best in myself, but do that with people around me.
So there was this wonderful thing that was born out of your need, what I need, right?
Yes.
What were the initial reactions that you got to starting the win rooms?
Back when I was in my corporate role,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they knew that I was a bit of I was kind of always just sort of bringing forward different unique ways of looking at things. Like, how do you up the game, right? When you're trying to sell to clients, and the worst thing you can do is fall in the sea of sameness. But I think they were a little uncomfortable at the beginning. Like, I'm going to share something about what I'm interested in. Like, what if it's the wrong thing? What if I said the wrong thing? And I always joke in any of my sessions, I'm like, guys, ladies, I'm asking you a question. It's not a tattoo. Like, if some, right, you say what you think and let's put it down. I do a lot of it on, virtually, and I do virtual sticky boards and real sticky boards. Just write it down. It's okay. Right. It's okay to say what you like. Anyway, so getting them to be more comfortable in being themselves, because you both know from working in a corporation for a long time, it's like you start to pull back and like remove everything about yourself.
Right. Which I think it also, when that happens, you kind of everything gets mediocre.
Correct.
Right?
Watered down.
Totally. And so what a powerful, wonderful, life-affirming place to work when you can actually be yourself.
Well, and isn't that kind of what we're talking about when it comes to modern leadership?
Yeah.
Right? Like, just allowing people to be themselves. I mean, within some parameters, but yes, being more of that. And I think that's one of the bigger, from my experience, work with a lot of organizations, that is one of the biggest challenges with the leadership gap today, is that many leaders have been, they were raised, and, it's not their fault. This is how they were taught to lead, which was, you don't show anything about yourself. You demand, you dictate, you set the direction. And what the younger generation, earlier career people, and even mid-career people, what they want is something different. And part of the acceleration of this is, so back in the day, like when we didn't have, I had my first, when I first started in sales, I had my first BlackBerry. Like, I didn't even know what to do with it. But back then, there wasn't access to so much information all the time. And so there was an ability, how you show up and, unique, right? But as things have become more, like data driven, and, jobs are eliminated because, it's easy, for a computer to do instead. This sort of keeping everybody the same, that's the worst thing you can do, because now, right, in order to like keep your job and be a strong leader, like you have to stand out and do something different than a computer can't do. But a lot of leaders are training their people to be like robots, right? In that older school way. So you have a big gap right now with what I would say is like what the leaders think what the leaders want and think that their people need, and what the people actually want and need. Very different.
Absolutely. And I would say also it takes courage for a leader, especially one who was brought up in back in the day when it was about subsume what you really need and make it all about the corporate line, right? It takes courage for a leader like that who was brought up in that kind of thing to enable and encourage their people to be unique, to be different, and be themselves and bring who they are to the workplace, because it's not that they actually want this, I think, but they've been told that this is what they should want, is everybody doing the work just like machines, and we're not machines.
Right.
Right.
I would think, Jamie, you might have some insight on this, but I would think that there's a lot of fear. Like if I do let people be themselves and show up, that maybe the performance will degrade. And there's such high performance expectation these days that it's like the leaders hold on so tightly. But in reality, that if you do allow people to show up and be their best selves, uniquely contributing their gifts, that actually performance probably, is much, much better.
Well, because what you're seeing now is, what I was going to say before, I totally agree. What I was going to say before is that it really starts, you could say as a leader that, yeah, I want my people to be themselves, but it starts with the leader. The leader has to be willing to understand like how to unveil and sort of unwrap a bit about themselves, and be willing to do that. Now, it doesn't have to be like you go tell them your life story, but it could be something simple, like, figuring out what your core value is, right? Like understanding what that is and speaking it so people know, and why that's important to you. A little bit, just a little nugget. You give them a little bit, my goodness, your people will be like, wow, that leader, he, she, whoever is wow, I can really relate. Yeah. And when they can relate, that drives the connection.
Right.
You have to give them something. It's a story about something that they failed at when they were in college, or getting fired from I don't know, it could be anything. Yeah. But not portraying this perfection, because it's not real and people can't relate, right? Relate to someone that's not real. Yeah. And once people can relate, they feel that connection. Once they feel that connection, I talk a lot about intrinsic motivation, right? We're trying to tap into the intrinsic motivation of people, understanding what their behaviors, their drivers, what drives them, their behaviors. And so understanding that, like, everybody's driven differently. Like strong leaders have to know which, does the person right now need a kick in the butt or a pat on the back? And we all know that if you give someone a kick in the butt when they really need a pat on the back, it's like goes in the complete reverse. So that's one of the bigger challenges right now, that most leaders only have one way, especially right now with the market and the economy the way that it is. Most leaders have only been taught one way to respond in this scenario. And what is it? Press, push down pressure and micromanage and just drill people. And right now, people don't have any more to give. And so what you're going to get when you do that, when that, like I say, it's like one trick pony leaders, because they only have one way they respond to any situation. And it basically does the reverse of what they're trying to do. They're trying to drive revenue. They're trying to drive results. But what actually ends up happening is it's the reverse. People, they quiet quit, whatever the term is we're calling it today. Right. So it's a big challenge.
Right. Well, I love this idea. One of the things we do in this podcast is provide our listeners with actionable advice, something that they can take away and immediately apply. So what you just said about connecting with the people around you by telling a story or figuring out what your core value is, and sharing that can make that connection. And I think also just the connection then can build that trust that you need to have with each other.
Yeah, I mean, asking, you can, a couple other things you can do is, I love this exercise. I have leaders reach out to, 5 or 6 people that have worked with them, maybe just people in their environment, and say, you're doing some self-reflection work or you're doing some leadership development work. Could you share with me the first 3 words you would use to describe working with me? You can have them text it to you. And so you get back these like 30 words from people. And what it can do for you is sort of give you a sense of how people see you. Because oftentimes, and this is one of the challenges, right? Like how you think you're being seen versus how you're seen.
Right.
There could be a big discrepancy there. So we talk about modern leadership, and modern leadership is about having empathy and self-awareness. So you have to have self-awareness and then empathy for others. And so really doing more of this reflecting and seeing how people are seeing you is really powerful. And then one other thing I'll share this is just a practice that I'm always in, and I think it's great for any leader or person in a leadership role, or really anybody, is once you've delivered something, maybe it's a presentation or a meeting, or and someone says, hey, that was great, that was really good, or that was a great session, for you to say, thank you. What did you like about it specifically? I'd love your feedback. So any leader can say this in their team meeting and say, what do we think about today? You could even do it at the end, like say that, what did you like it? Yes, liked it. Great. What did you like about it? So in that moment, what you're doing is you're hearing what people valued out of the whole thing, which you might think it's one thing, but it's another. So you're getting more awareness of understanding your listeners, right? Your people,
Right.
and what they listen for. The other thing about it is then this is like a bit of a neuro hack, is because you're making them say what they liked. That's going to stay in their brain about, that was a really good session. What I liked about it was.
Great.
So it helps the leader with building their brand as well.
I love that. That's something that anybody can immediately apply and start doing. And I like that there's 2 things about it, right? There's the saying thank you, getting used to being grateful for feedback, right? Yes. That you get, but then also, what specifically did you like about it? I'd love to hear your feedback, right? Yep. And it serves both sides of that communication, right? Mm-hmm. It serves the person who is giving the feedback so that it sticks in their brain, as you said, the neuro hack, right. But also it helps that leader know what they value so they can do more of it,
right?
And right. Not be so, and making improvements real time, right? Oh, absolutely.
Right.
So absolutely. Jamie, I think we've seen today, our time's about up, but we have time for one more question. And I think we've seen today what you're passionate about, but we just like to ask you that for sure. So it's a 2-part question. What are you passionate about? And how do you keep improving your own leadership?
I'm really passionate about helping people get unstuck and for helping people see their potential. And so for me, I always say it's like we are really good at remembering what we're not good at and forgetting what we are good at, right?
Yes.
And the reason why is because the things we're good at are our natural gifts we were born with. And we tend to dismiss those. And with all the coaching that I do with people is basically helping people to see those differently so they can own their strengths and not just push them to the side. So I'm super passionate about helping people to reframe and rethink how they see themselves, what they bring to the table, and speak it with confidence. And I'm passionate about it because it's something that I learned to do. I wasn't good at. Right? I've had to practice this and practice it with others over and over and over and over, thousands of times. with others and helping them to reframe. So I always say we rise by lifting others. And that's like what I could do all day long, helping people see their potential. And then what was the other thing you asked?
And how do you continue to improve your own
Oh,
leadership?
well, I continue to improve because of just practicing all the time. I look at everything I do as just, I'm practicing. And I'm practicing with different types of people, learning to lean into people that are really challenging to work with. I have a coach, right? Any person it's like, I always make the rule number one is if you hire anybody to work with your team or with you as a coach, advisor, whatever, you better be sure that they have their own coach.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
to help
exactly.
them.
We agree with that wholeheartedly.
Yeah.
Right. Of course. Right. It's like we're continuing to grow and sort of not get stuck in our war rooms. Right. Because it's super easy to do. So I work with a coach, always reading, just learning about new things that are out in the marketplace. And just, like practicing. It's like anything, right? You get really good at it if you've been doing it for a long time.
Right.
Absolutely. Jaime, thank you so much for being with us today. We've really enjoyed this way too short talk that we got to have with you.
I know. Thank you so much. It was great. I had so much fun.
So thank you, listeners, for joining us for the Seasons Leadership Podcast. We hope that you're able to take these words of wisdom that you got today about excellence in leadership with you on your own leadership journey. Remember, no matter what level or role, you can always become more than you are today, and the world needs good leaders. When you fulfill your unique purpose, you strengthen organizations, communities, individuals where you live and work. Thank you for being part of our positive leadership change. And also, we'd like to invite you to join us in making excellent leadership the worldwide standard by subscribing to our community on Patreon. Visit patreon.com/seasonsleadership to become a member and join the conversation. We'd love to connect with you as we build our community of excellent leaders. And don't forget to tune in next time for more great conversations about leadership excellence. Until then, we're sending you positive vibes for new energy, creativity, and an opportunity to elevate your thinking during this season of spring. See you then.